Hello. So this will be a short introduction video to what the tapping points are and what the process actually looks like from start to finish. So this is not the video for the actual process, but just the setup, what it looks like, and what we're going to do. So first I'm going to go through all of the points. There's not too many, and you don't have to remember the order of them as you'll be following along, but I want you to know where all of the points are. So the first point we tap is on the back of the hand, on the side of the hand here. We call it the karate chop point. It's actually approximately right there where if you bend your fingers, but it's a big point, and you'll be tapping it with kind of 2 or 3 fingers along the side of the hand, so you really can't miss it. You're pretty much covering that whole area. And all of the points that when you tap, you'll be doing this. Sometimes 2 fingers is enough because of the area. Here, you could just sort of relax and use your 3 fingers. So that's the first point. We call it the karate chop point. Okay, the second point we'll be tapping is where the eyebrow meets your bridge of the nose. If you feel around for it, you're not going to need to feel around for it every time, but just to sort of set it up and find it, there's kind of like this tiny little divot in the bone. So that'll be where the point is. So when we tap it, you take 2 fingers and you do this. And then the other thing to know about tapping is that, you know, in some videos you'll see tapping being done on one side, and that's fine too. You can just do one side, it works. I like to do 2 sides because I have learned that it actually helps to balance the 2 brain hemispheres. So I like to do 2, and I recommend that you do it if you can. And so with that in mind, when you tap, or if you're deciding to do 2, you know, both sides, so actually don't tap completely synchronously. Let it sort of be a little bit off kilter, if you will. So not like this, right? But sort of, you know. And the other thing too is, as we go through the tapping, you will be tapping each point approximately 6 to 8 times. There's not a set number, just a few times. Okay, so that's the second point. Our next point is at the edge of the eye. So it's not the temple, which is there, but here, again, if you feel around for it, there's a little divot right where the eye socket, you know, you're still on the bone though, right? So not inside the eye socket, but right on the bone. So both sides there. It's a pretty obvious divot. So this is why I say 2 fingers instead of 3, because it's a small area. You know, don't hurt yourself. And it's a gentle tap, but you feel it, you know. And the third point we're tapping is at the right below the eyeball, the iris, the pupil. Also on the bone here, you will find also a little divot. I've seen people tap further out, but the actual point is right here. Again, you feel that little notch there. And again, you don't tap synchronously, you tap just slightly off synchrony. Okay, that's under the eye. So this we call sort of side of the eye, this is under the eye. The next point is directly underneath the nose, right where this thing is called the philtrum. So you can do 1 hand with that. I kind of like 2 still, because I think it helps to balance. So you'll be doing that. And also kind of off kilter. Second, the next point is underneath the lower lip, right there in that little hole. Same idea, you can do one hand, or you can do both. The next set of points is where your clavicle, where this collarbone meets the breastbone. So if you feel around for it, if you kind of just follow the clavicle down, there's a couple of divots right there. Pardon my printer. And you'll be tapping this. I've seen people do this. I don't like it. I don't like the two sides. Just stay both sides, one on each side with your hand, and also tap like so. And then the last, oh wait, not the last, the second to last point is under your, so it's under your, it's on your rib cage, about a hand width down from your armpit, about right there. If you feel around, by the way, you don't have to lift your arm this high every time. This is just for demonstration. If you feel around on this, on the center here, there'll be a kind of a tender point there. Everybody has it. And so you'll be sort of tapping like that. That you can basically obviously only do with one hand. So, and then if you want to do both sides, you just do the second side, which I like doing. So that's, we just call it the under the arm. And then the last point we tap is on top of the head, kind of like the midline there, and basically the top. This you can do with 2 or 3 or even 4 fingers, just sort of do that. You know, you can do both hands, which is fine. So those are the points. So now we'll talk about the process of how we do this entire thing. You'll learn it eventually. It's quite simple and easy, but it helps to go through it slowly, just to describe it and so that you know what each part is for. So the first thing we do is we tap on the side of the hand on this karate chop point, and we do what's called a setup statement. And it always starts with the phrase, even though. So you'll say, even though I have this stress, even though I have this, whatever the issue is that we're working on, right? So even though I have this anxiety about driving, even though I have this insomnia, even though I have this pain in my jaw, right? Whatever it is, that's, so we start there. So you'll be saying, even though I have this driving anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So we'll do, even though I have this driving anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And we do this setup statement 5 times at least, right? It doesn't take very long. And as you're doing it, you're tapping here. So doing this is what allows your body and your mind to connect and to acknowledge what the issue is. A lot of times, if we jump to the positive too quickly, you actually wind up creating internal resistance because our feelings really need to be acknowledged. And so when you are doing this tapping and doing the setup statement several times, you are sending a signal to your system saying, I acknowledge, I know what's going on, I see the pain, I know the pain is there. You know, we're often taught to jump to the positive, or to just say, suck it up, or, you know, get rid of it and move it away, kind of brush it away, do whatever you can to just feel better, right? And again, that creates resistance inside, because we need to acknowledge the feelings, because until we do, they're going to just sit there and fester and really kind of insist on themselves, right? So, and then after we do the setup statement, we start with the eyebrow points, and you don't have to remember this, you'll follow along and eventually it'll just be in your body and you'll know it. But after we've done the setup statement is when we go through and we basically tap all around the points as we acknowledge and sit with the feelings, and you know, and move through the process, as you'll see in the next video when we actually do a round of tapping. So you'll notice that we spend a long time on the negative. In fact, the positive in this tapping isn't all that necessary. We do it anyway because it's nice to anchor that in. Why not? Right? But tapping, the way tapping actually works is that as you're saying the negative, as you're sort of dwelling, right? As you're sitting in that mucky muck of all the feelings that you have about this issue, and you're tapping, the tapping is what sends the signal to your amygdala, which is in your brain. It's in the limbic system. It sends the signal that you are safe, that you are okay. So you're not just actually revving the engine of your anxiety or your fear or anything like that. You are acknowledging it while sending the message that you are safe and that you are okay. And this is why and how the tapping works. So you'll notice, you know, it's like, when are we going to get to the positive, you know? And we do, because it actually feels really good to get to the positive, but not until you fully acknowledge the negative. So the other thing I forgot to say is that before we do the setup statement, before we do this and we repeat the even though statement, right before that, you're going to score your anxiety or whatever issue you're working on. So if it's driving anxiety, you'll say, well, right now I'm sitting in my car and I'm afraid to put the key in the ignition because, you know, my anxiety is at a 10, right? Now, if you're actually driving, you have to pull over before you can do the tapping, okay? Other things, obviously, you don't have to worry about that because you'll be in your house or something, or in your bedroom. You can do tapping anywhere except when you're driving. So you will score your issue. So you'll say, I'm at a 6 right now, or I'm at a 10 right now, right? And it helps to write it down because very often, strangely enough, you forget. But, you know, you'll try to remember it in whatever way that you can. So then we go through the setup statement, we go through all the points, we go through it for a few minutes. Some people say 8 minutes, some people say 12 minutes. It seems like a long time. You don't actually necessarily need that long. You basically tap until you feel better. So the video will be however long it will be. And if it's not long enough, if, you know, at the end of the video, you only went from an 8 to a 7, then you just do another round with the video. So once you've gone through this whole process, you kind of slow down and you stop tapping and you take a breath. And then you score yourself again and you say, okay, now I'm at a 3 or 4. And you know what? I feel fine. I'm going to move on with my day. Right. So that is the process. Hopefully that's made sense. And in the next video, we'll actually do a round of tapping.